When we were young, 2024, all album plays, 57 records. This is the 56th. We're almost done. The penultimate album
so
review
close.
from the Emo Social Club. On this episode, we are reviewing Want by 303. Lizzie, before we give our opinions and our takes and our thoughts, let us know a little bit more about Want and 303.
You're going to want to know this background information about 303's second album that came out on Photo Finish Records on July 8th, 2008.
With the little photo finish 2008 clip here.
Yep. This was also produced by friend of the pod, Matt Squire. Only Don't Trust Me was also co-produced by Benny Blanco.
Yep.
The singles from this were Don't Trust Me, Starstruck, and Still Around. Punk Bitch, though, was released on a Warped Tour compilation album. This charted at 44 in the Billboard 200 charts and number 6 on the top dance electronic charts. There was a lot of very mixed reviews, but upon further investigation, it just seemed like absolutely nobody but like 3 people liked this album when it came out critically.
I was there when the lore was written. I'm very close to this record and like was heavily parasocial with this band for this album. So best friend Sean Foreman, don't talk to me. Well, before we get into our opinions and our thoughts on this record, make sure you are subscribed. We're almost done. The festival is this week, so we only got like one more. But make sure you're subscribed. We got more videos coming out after the festival. We got all of our interviews from the festival, maybe with 303. I don't know. We don't know yet.
We're finding out when you are.
I'm finding out when you do. So make sure you subscribe to find out all the stuff we got coming up.
Here are my thoughts on Want by 303. This is a great album, and if you say otherwise, you're just inherently incorrect. This is booty shaking, silly, goofy, with a tinge of seriousness that was encompassing of that time when it came to basically just dance music. And it made such a huge splash in this scene that I think it jolted it awake a little bit and created what we kind of see more in this neon pop punk area as well. I listen to it on the regular. This is always in my normal rotation of albums wholeheartedly. There's no misses on this album. I saw them in 2009 at Warped Tour, my first Warped Tour. My dad took me, and my dad ended up loving 303, so much so that he downloaded this entire album as soon as we got home from Warped Tour. And it is still one of his and my favorite bands too. I just think this album was ahead of its time.
I was at Warped Tour in 2009. I was there when the lore was written. Do not speak to me about the lore. Here are my thoughts on 303's Want. When this record dropped, the immediate moment this record dropped, I was obsessed with it. I've been fortunate enough to hang out with 303 at Lollapalooza 2023. I got to tell them, like Sean especially, like how much this record meant to me and how like just obsessed with it. I listened to this album on repeat for like a full year. My like college dorm room would have parties and we would just play this record, the first 303 record, and the Inner Party System record. So there's a band that I'm going to shout out a little bit here because I also went to the tour that 303 did with Inner Party System. Fell in love with both these bands, like completely obsessed, completely like this is the genre that I am more so than like pop punk and emo stuff. Like I am now into this. I'm into the electronic side. I'm into the production side. I'm learning like how to do all of this stuff because this record like just completely changed my opinion on this style of music. I think this record is completely standing the test of time. The irony of it, the like not taking itself seriously, the fact that it is like white dudes trying to do like crunkcore, but not really. It's white dudes trying to do like hip hop tropes, but not really. Like it's a lot of that at the time felt very cringy and very dorky and still like was good. It now is like coming back into fashion almost. One of the really important things in this record is Nathaniel Mott's production, who wrote a lot of like the synthesizer parts and wrote a lot of the production end of this. His production is not just like in a way that separates a bit from like the Millionaires and Broken Side and a lot of other like bands that were trying to do electronic stuff in the music that they were producing. This stands like as an electronic album. This has a lot of these like high level of production things that aren't just like Casio keyboards or whatever we have on hand. This is like someone who knows what they're producing. And I think that that's what really helps it stand out, where it'll have songs that go from the hip hop side, like the dumb like white boys doing garage band hip hop, to like, no, you produced like an indie electronic song, I'm going to say that I think with the fact that indie sleaze is coming back, this is right there. This is on the cusp.
Yeah.
This is like, people are going to rediscover some of the songs from this album and go, whoa, this is like exactly the same brand as this other stuff, which like to me was very of the time going into like American Apparel hipster culture of like the late 2000s that I like, you know, first moved to Chicago and was like, dude, I'm coming from this scene with like all of these artists that produce electronic music, and kind of really shifted me out of like the pop punk and emo stuff. And this was kind of like that first move into more of those types of genres. I really kind of credit 303 with a lot. I put 303 like at the peak of like this change in this genre and this change in music that happened for a lot of the emo Warped Tour kids at that time.
I definitely think that this, at least for the time that it really hit for me in my time and where I was in like high school, starting high school, this was something that we were starting to be kind of wary of, but really open to the introduction of it. This is also when we start to see so much more just EDM come out of the timeline too. And a lot of people start to get that, ew, I would never listen to that. Like, that's not real music and things of that nature, where we're still bumping 303 though. So like, what is this? This is also real music.
Because a lot of people were like, I don't want to listen to EDM, but I listen to Attack Attack or Ask Me Alexandria. And it was like, they're doing electronic parts in hardcore music or metalcore music or whatever. And those bands did it in like the dumbest, lowest denominator way, where they clearly could not really produce, and they just had Joey Sturgis do it. Sumerian, help us, pay for the money, pay the money, pay the man. But 303 was like indie, and were doing it themselves, and they were just friends who wanted to make this style of electronic music that they clearly had a lot of influences come into this. It really didn't sound like anything else that was happening. It really was sort of trailblazing for pop music, EDM music, electronic indie stuff in the Warped Tour scene. And I think it did bridge that gap for a lot of people in 08, 09 into like dubstep, EDM music, electro music, dance music. It really bridged that gap.
Yeah, this was still a lot of these lyrics that were in some of the GIFs that would pop up
GIFs,
were all
almost,
over on Tumblr. So this was also very heavily incorporated for us 2014 Tumblr girlies, even then on.
Lizzie, what are your top tracks from 303's Want?
I'm Not Your Boyfriend, Baby. That's my favorite song.
Like, you know, and listening to this time, it's got that outro to it.
Yeah.
Where it really goes into this more like indie sleaze part that like it really surprised me now. I think because we're just coming off of Brat Summer that I'm like, there's a lot of this electronic stuff on this that it like stays going. It stays popular now.
Yeah, well, that outro specifically, it just, one, you have this so outrageous, intrusive almost, and abrupt intro to the song. It is literally just, I'm not your boyfriend, baby. And you're like, what's going on here?
It's
and
a sense in that, yeah.
And then it just weans down to something, not like dark, but it gives you that aura of, okay, we're lowering it down a bit. We're getting a little bit more serious, a little bit with the lyrics,
moody.
playing with it. We're moody. And then we're going to pick it back up because we hit that low and now we're back up and now we're going.
It's really good production. It's really smart. It's got all of the elements of what 303 is, where it's both goofy, dumb, and then all of a sudden it's like really good and really hipster and really like right on that cusp right before everything turned into this very like dark and emotional place in EDM music, and that hipster genre and that hipster style. It fit so much in with it, and that was like one of the songs that like really bridged the gap for me at that time. Dude, Rich Man,
so good.
Rich Man stays top.
So good.
Rich Man stays on top. The chorus is incredible. The production is incredible. The verses are like just as catchy to shout out loud as Don't Trust Me is. There's a lot of lines on this that have that like crowd participation style of it, where you know you're saying something really dumb and really like stupid with them, but you're also like, that's fun.
It's like we're all just saying it though. We don't know what we're talking about. Let's all do it.
Yeah, it was super fun. Even like back in the day when I would see them play, like that song was a crowd favorite. Everyone's hands are up in the air. Everybody's singing along, throwing the hands for the 303. Like, perfect. Perfect crowd participation song. Perfect dance song. Perfect for what 303 does. God, I love it so much.
Another one I did really enjoy was Choke Chain.
Get your drum. Come on, get your drum. I love that part.
I think just because it's just a little bit more aggressive compared to it, but it still has that dancey beat. I just think it's so fun.
It's one of those ones where they're clearly trying to do like a hip hop trope and are not like they can't do it in like a real way because they're like we're like these guys are literal like doctorates from Colorado.
These are very smart men.
Like they're like we're not that, but we understand conceptually how to do it. So they're like, well, let's just do something like this, and then the drum part, which is a I'm like it's really good. The ups and downs. That's
where if there is a pit and you say open, like you're opening it and you're gonna do like a mini wall of death and you're like it hits and you just
it's good.
So good.
Really good. There's a lot of that heavy synth part on this record that has that aggression in it where this is that bridge where you're like still listening to heavy music. But now you're listening to dance music and you're like, who cares? It's still heavy. It's still good.
It all incorporates so seamlessly that I don't care that we went from one genre to another because it's perfect. What was another one you really liked?
I mean, I don't know. It's the whole record.
I know.
I mean, Punk Bitch is obviously a classic. Don't Trust Me is a classic. Starstruck is a classic. Everything on this record is just excellent. Like it's just so much. This is going to have a renaissance. This genre, this style. Whatever they did on this record is going to have a renaissance again. I think the 303, like, I don't know how this record got made either. I don't really know like how they came up with this and like it stuck out so much of the time that it's now still being played live at a festival. Cause like it just is. It's the whole record, man. Like even when you get to like Still Around, which I was very shocked was the single way back in the day, or Colorado Sunrise, you're still like, this is
so
good.
Good.
You're still singing along. You're still dancing. You're still up and down. Like I don't know how this record is so good.
It baffles me that when it came out, it was pretty much so negatively reviewed and received upon. But it is of the time.
Yeah, they couldn't see the forest for the trees. They didn't understand that dubstep was coming. They didn't understand that Skrillex was going to be out and like changing the entire fucking genre.
Had the entire blinders on.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to talk as much as I can about Inner Party System, because they're one of the greatest bands of all time. I think the influence from both of these bands, Inner Party System is much more that like hipster electronic, a little bit of like dark rooms in cities and like partying way too late and that kind of shit. And this is more like the fun, you're young and you don't know what the hell we're talking about. You haven't experienced this and you just want to jump up and down at Warped Tour. There's a very like middle ground there that I don't think that people knew was going to take over the scene and like really come out of like Warped Tour and out of pop punk and out of emo and become this whole other thing that now we look back at as like, cool, The Dare is trying to bring that back. Charlie XCX is trying to bring that back. And 303 fits in so well, slotted into that scene now. I'm like, you can't look back at this record and not see how that influence is taken off. But you can't see the forest for the trees when you're in it. You don't know the moment that's happening while you're experiencing it. So they were wrong.
They were incorrect, wholly.
Yeah.
I mean, because punk bitch do go.
Punk bitch do go. Dude.
Punk bitch fucking goes. Do you have a spicy take about this?
No.
Okay, there we go.
No, I don't. But I mean, I'll just say again that I do think that there's going to be a renaissance. I do think this is very indie sleaze sounding now. I think that this is like it very much can come back now and be widely accepted in the pop realm.
Yeah.
Beyond just Don't Trust Me. I guess a spicy take would be like the records they made after this are very hit or miss, very rough, and I worry that the money kind of made it a thing that took it a very different direction. My First Kiss is a fine song, but it's not as good as anything on this record.
That's where they entered more into the traditional pop,
which sucks.
Market.
It just straight up fucking sucks. It's not as good as anything on this because it went pop for 2008, 2009, which was already kind of like boring. There's a lot of mid-tempo, like boring stuff that happened around that 2009, 2010 period. And a lot of it was on Fueled by Ramen. It's another story. There was certainly like what was happening in pop music was not as interesting to a lot of people in music that like listeners of the emo scene, listeners of the pop punk scene. We wanted to go to more of that EDM route because it was more interesting There was a lot of stuff happening there that was really cutting edge and felt cool and different. And we hadn't really seen it before. So we're like, hey, what's going on over here? In the same way that got me into rock music in the first place. You know, this is new. This is like, whoa, you can scream, you can do this. And then it's like, whoa, you can make synthesizers do that sound and you can dance. And like, whoa, this is really weird. And I think that by the time they went to more pop audiences and Don't Trust Me, you know, took them to that stardom, and Katy Perry featuring on a Starstruck remix, like, it really made them more boring. I think this record made them popular, and it also was like, you can't recreate this because you there's money in it now. Don't Trust Me made too much money.
This was a once in a lifetime thing, and it couldn't be replicated. I mean, that's why we see some bands though, they do that one big album and they say, that's it, I'm done.
Need, the follow-up many years later, Need leaning more into a hyperpop space or being more current. I do think that record has a lot of good stuff on it. I'm So Sad is good. The song they did with Gex is good. So I do think like they are smart. Like they're smart guys. They know what's happening and they are kind of along for the ride. And like I don't think that they thought this would get as popular as it did. And I hope that, you know, they make more music that sounds like this. And I hope that as indie sleaze becomes more of a thing post 2024, that 303 is kind of like remembered in that wave. And Inner Party System, if you need help getting back together as a band, I'm happy to help. Let me know what you need. If it's $3 out of my pocket right now, you got it.
$3 whole dollars?
I can give you $3. Wookie, I know you're doing very successfully. Black Caviar, I know you're doing very successfully. Just maybe reassemble your old indie emo electronic band.
As a treat for Brian.
That's like one of the greatest bands of all time. Like maybe do it, you know.
Consider.
Jared follows us on TikTok, so he'll see it. Jared, go on the pod.
I think really the only spicy take is the fact that I want this to come back and I want people to get away from only playing Don't Trust Me and wanting to hear it. We started to hear more Starstruck happen at Emo Nights that we do, and just in general when I'm out, at least at like clubs and places. And that's great. It's so refreshing. Because there's just so many other bangers on this album that to only limit yourself to Don't Trust Me is making you boring to me as a person. Throw on Punk Bitch.
Only listening to the most popular single from a record. I've only listened to the most popular song from a record that I haven't listened to.
This is where my indie sleaze kid comes out.
Okay.
You only listen to the popular tracks? Embarrassing. I was so insufferable during this time.
You can comment on this one. Go ahead. I opened the comments on this one. Those are our thoughts. Those are our opinions. Unfortunately, we fucking love this record. So our only question we have left to answer is, should you see this at When We Were Young 2024?
Yeah.
I mean, like, what do you want? What do you want us to say?
Do you want to shake your ass?
We've seen them a few times and they've had a short set. And it's been really annoying because this band is so much fun.
Like 30 minutes doesn't give them any justice.
No, you need time. You need the entirety of the set. They're super funny. They're really entertaining. They're really nice dudes. They're really genuine and authentic guys who just happen to have a bunch of like really dumb songs that got pretty popular.
Yeah.
They're absolutely worth your time seeing. Skip another band to see this band if you've never seen them before. Skip a band you love to see this band if you've never seen them before. Straight up, like, no question. See this at the fest.
Copy paste.
So that's where we'll be at this set, because obviously. But where will you be? Will you be at this set? Let us know in the comments down below what you think, what you believe, how you feel about this record. We have a playlist. The playlist is almost complete. We have almost assembled the 57 Infinity Stones of When We Were Young 2024. Right. And we will have that playlist up past it. So if you're watching this now, and thank you. Thank you for checking this out. And I hope you saw them at the fest. But until When We Were Young 2024, and until 303, and until Want, we'll see you there.